Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Wallet Watch. I'm your host, Brian McCauley. You guys know Wallet Watch is a platform that we created to talk about all things mortgage and real estate. Speaking of real estate, today's guest is one of the best in the business. She is a personal friend of mine, one of the best business partners and human beings I've ever been around. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to welcome to the show my friend, Grecia Garza-Castillo. Welcome, Gigi.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So for those that don't know about you and your story and your background, give us a little insight about you, your history, and how you got in this crazy business to begin with.
Yeah. Okay. So, hi, everyone. I'm Grecia Garza-Castillo. I go by Gigi. I am the team leader for Gigi Dallas Real Estate Team, and I'm with Allie Beth Allman and Associates. So I got into the business about 14 years ago. Wow. Which is wild to think about. It really was happenstance. I was studying pre-med. A friend encouraged me to get into real estate. And I did. I took the leap of faith and I did. My journey has not been, just like rainbows and butterflies, but it's been so fun, so worth every, disappointment. Every closing, everything has really led me to build a really, really beautiful life. So good. I'm happy to be here.
Good. We're going to talk about our journey here in a little while. You and I have been working together and friends for over 10 years. With the experience that you have and the direction that we're heading, I'm curious to get your feel on 26. It's been a funky 2 or 3 years. It's gotten better and then slipped back and gotten better again. And so what's your feeling on the 26 market? What trends are you seeing? What's changing? What should people expect from 25 to 26?
So I will say there's a lot of confidence that has entered the market, a lot of buyer confidence and seller confidence. Yes, because I think the last 2 years, everyone's just worried about, we had the elections and then what happens after that. Obviously, there's a lot of unrest in the world, but Dallas is it's such a micro market and It really goes neighborhood by neighborhood. The neighborhoods that we're working in, things are moving quickly, especially the higher price points. I think the neighborhoods that are struggling are the neighborhoods that have a lot of inventory, and we're seeing that in the prices of 500 to 1.5. Okay. Those are the properties I see that are taking a little bit longer to move. But anything that's between 4 to 7, it's selling quite quickly. Okay. And then obviously you have your ultra luxury, 10, 15, $20 million properties. There's so many buyers for that right now.
Really?
Which is crazy.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So you have to think the massive exodus of the people leaving New York, leaving California, Chicago, out of the country. A lot of people seek Dallas. There's a lot of, it's a hub. There's a lot of, I would say, balance in terms of, if you need to travel, you're close to an airport, you're 2-3 hours away from everywhere. You still have really beautiful boutiques. There's lots of great shopping. There's a lot to do here. Business wise, obviously, Y'all Street is coming. What's happening with Morgan Stanley? Goldman Sachs. Yeah. So I think it's important to note that that's really going to be a driving force to Dallas real estate. It'll start at the top for now. I think it's going to trickle down to other price points. Yeah. But I do think if people are on kind of the edge of do I buy something now? Do I hold tight? I always say buy when you're ready. Right. Don't put yourself in a pickle. Right. But I would do it before things really, really take off, because that's where we're headed.
Yeah. I think 26 is really a bounce back year. I think the hardest part's over. I think obviously rates are not where they want, but they're a % lower than they were last year. And I just think people can start to feel that component of it. Ski downhill for good, slow and steady. Obviously we probably get another year, but I think that does increase what good goes on in Dallas with the buy piece. To your point, I think there's been a lot of individuals, a lot of businesses that continue to migrate here, and it just makes the city so strong. The nucleus is just there's a ton of people, there's a ton of businesses coming here. They all need a place to live. Yeah. I think it's interesting, and I want to unpack this a little bit more with you, specifically about you and the luxury market. But when you say the luxury market, 2, 3, 4, 5 million plus, as far as price points, you've become one of those agents. Tell me why there's so many buyers for those price points. I feel like there's not that many wealthy people in the world, but maybe Dallas just has a lot of them. And 2, how did you get in that market? How did you become a luxury agent? what steps did you take? What people did you meet? So talk about why there's so many people available to buy X $1 million houses, but also how did you get in that bubble of people and how are you doing so well?
Okay, so I think there's multiple ways to answer that. So one, I would say, especially I would say Dallas proper itself is very insulated. So like we're not talking DFW, we're not talking suburbs, we're talking south of 635.
Okay.
It's essentially a little bit of a bubble, but that's what it is. You have to think that there's a lot of people here that their parents for years have been investing either in real estate in other states or in Texas itself, or they've been holding on to properties for a while. So a lot of the clients that I get, a lot of times it's a parent buying them a house, or they're getting a gift, or their parents have had these investment accounts for them. So that's like one tier of properties we get, or of clients we get. Another one is you do see the rise in like tech people who have moved to Dallas, who don't necessarily want to be in Austin. Austin priced itself out a long time ago. Now the market is very different there. What I'm learning is that Dallas and Houston have been the recipients of the people who aren't moving to Austin, who are in the tech space. And then also there's like a variety of careers in Dallas that I think have helped millennials, or I would say older millennials in these price points. You have a really strong medical presence in Dallas, a really strong oil presence, a really strong finance presence. So it's like a combination of a lot of different things. And I would say, for me, it's not that I was necessarily like seeking those clients. It's, I didn't make like a blueprint of how to get there. I just think it slowly progressed with like, people that I knew, my network, the university that I attended, social circles that I've been a part of. So I think it's a combination of things.
Yeah, that's good. I think over a period of time, those people naturally, to your point, like start in your 20s and 30s, but just natural progression is people are working harder, they're making more money, they're turning to a second-time buyer, they get a family, they start earning. Dallas, obviously, pre-COVID wasn't super expensive, and so some of the people that owned here before, bought during, continue to boom. I think you're on something too about the diversity. Like I think that's one of the things about Dallas that I've noticed is like, from an economic standpoint, the diversity of all the really, really good markets and industries here is like better than most because to your point, Houston is great, but it's oil heavy. So it's like, oil's great, oil's not great. The city is up and down. Austin, same thing with the tech piece. Dallas is so diverse and so strong that I've noticed that there are so many industries that have have really booming incomes, but also from Dallas probably all the way to Oklahoma, there's like 2 hours of land. And you can't say that, right? For like, you can't say it for Austin, you can't say it for Houston. And so there's a traction here as well, which is like, hey, we can continue to build forever. And I also think too, like the relocation buyers, $3 million in California, you get a house as big as this room. $3 million in Dallas, like it's still a huge house. And I think some of those people are tired of whether it be what they can't get. They might be tired of the political stuff. They might be tired, obviously here, there's no income taxes. And so I think it's a combination of all of that. Since you didn't really seek out, you just naturally grew into, a luxury agent, luxury markets for people that are maybe Gigi 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and they're doing well. What's your best piece of advice if their overall goal is to try to migrate or network into a luxury market? If you had to do it again and give your younger self advice, what would be a couple things or tips you'd give people on how to start?
Okay, so I really focused, especially as I was starting my business, I really focused on giving back and making the client feel special and seen no matter what price point. So I would take anything, whether it was a lease or a small condo deal or whatever. For me, what was important was a relationship with the client. And I think that that's ultimately what led me to building these better connections with so many great people. Now, I had instances where I had just, leased someone like a $3,000 condo, let's say, and then they're like, oh, my CEO is actually looking for a house. Can you help him or her or whatever?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, but it's because I treated them as if they were my multi-million-dollar buyer or multi-million-dollar seller.
Yep.
So I never focused on the price point. I always focused on the quality of my relationships.
Yep.
I also learned when to walk away from certain people or when to walk away from certain clients of like, hey, this is not like vibing, and it's not always bad, but you know when you click with someone and when you don't.
Yeah.
So really focusing on those that you click with, and just showing up, you know, celebrating people for the season in life they are, whether, you know, they got a promotion or they're getting engaged or they're getting married or wherever they are in life. Really being a part of those moments, I think, helps with solidifying a lot of friendships.
Good. I think you're one of the best at that. I mean, that's one of the things I've noticed on our journey. We've been, you know, friends and working together for 10, 11, 12 years, and you were about the relationships. You never are too good for anybody. You always remember everybody, big or small, like one deal or 50 deals. That's what I really appreciate about you in that area. Because, you know, regardless of who's watching, I think there's been a disconnect over the past 5 years that the digital space and the social space and everything is great. It's complementary, but at the end of the day, the people work with who they like and they trust.
Yeah.
And you got to be in front of them, and you got to treat them well, and you got to love on them. And I think you do an excellent job of that. And with so many like realtors out there, so many lenders out there, I think sometimes people get confused on like, who should I pick? Why should I pick them? I think it's more important than ever to work with somebody who's experienced. And obviously you're a seasoned agent, experienced agent. Talk about that. Like, number one, why is it so important? But two, like, for the people that don't know out there, how do they determine a seasoned agent versus somebody that's good online, or a combination of both? What questions should they be asking? And what is a seasoned agent? What does that mean? Somebody experienced? Is it 2 years? Is it 10 years? Is it a couple transactions? Because obviously it's the biggest, you know, buying a house is the biggest transaction and biggest investment in purchase or sell of someone's life. And they want to make sure that their quarterback or their person that's seasoned and with experience. But what questions should people be asking? What does that look like for somebody that's seeking that out?
So I will say this. I joined Allie Beth Allman and Associates a few years ago, and it has been the best transition I've made, mainly because I'm working with so many seasoned agents.
Okay.
And I've learned, it's affirmed that seasonality means so much. So being able to speak to an agent that knew what was happening in 2012 and knows what's happening today, or knew what was happening in 2016 and knows what's happening today, you can navigate certain deals. You can navigate how to negotiate differently, because as rates are changing, as inventory is changing, so do agents, so the way that they communicate. So like during the COVID boom, I don't think many of us had, or any of us had dealt with like creating Excel sheets for multiple offers, right? Especially like I'm pretty listing heavy. And so, or I should say I'm heavy on listings. So typically all the listings I was getting were getting multiple offers during the COVID boom.
Right.
Well, how do you present that to a seller where they can, it's not just about price, it's also terms. What's important in those terms? A lot of new agents got so burned during that time because they couldn't explain to their clients what it meant to have a 90-day close versus a 30-day close. They didn't understand how to present a lease back, and how do you charge for a lease back, and how is this done? How is that done? So I think having a seasoned agent can also not only speak about like, oh, I've sold this floor plan before, or I've sold in this neighborhood before. It's also, I know how to handle this different market.
Yeah.
So like if you're in a market where your house is taking 6 months to sell, which is a lot of neighborhoods in Dallas, if that's the case, how do you communicate with your seller on like what's happening versus just doing price reductions? How do you come up with a good strategy so that the property is taken to the next stage?
Yeah.
If you're a new agent and all you know is the boom when everything was multiple offers and selling in a weekend, you don't know how to handle a listing that's on the market for 6 months.
Yeah.
Now, none of us want to have a listing for that long because it's marketing time and we feel our sellers grow antsy, and that's the worst feeling. But working with an experienced agent, they can not only guide you through negotiations, they can also guide you through neighborhoods. Okay, this neighborhood back in the day was doing this. Now it's doing this. We're seeing a lot of projections. Or like this neighborhood, we've never seen a downside here. It's always appreciated. You should do this because of this. Or if you know a specific street, it's like, well, this street is typically valued less because of this, and that. You can't find a lot of this stuff online. You know it through experience.
Yep. Yep.
So I think working with an experienced agent is key, especially in this market. You also get access to off-market transactions, which I will say...
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
Pay attention. That's a big one. I didn't know this for a long time, but Gigi obviously brought me onto this, is that it's like this business is what you know, but it's also who you know. And the who
That's
you
right.
know is off-market, or just, properties that are being sold behind the scenes. They're not public, and there's hundreds of them. But if you don't know the right people, you're not aware of this, you won't get access to these tucked away properties. So talk about... the seasoned agent component of being part of the brokerage that you're with, but also being seasoned means like getting to know more people in the industry, having access to things that your everyday person doesn't. What has that done to benefit you?
Well, I would say...
And your clients.
Yes, of course. Like this morning we had showings. They were both off market, and it was from my relationship with other agents. A certain price point will call for more privacy.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what the seller wants. And sometimes they're testing the market in terms of pricing, especially as the prices get higher. And so the benefit for the buyer is that, as we all know, Texas is a non-disclosure state. So the property taxes are going to go based off the publicized list price.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Or however the county wants to assess it, but it's usually
Public
based
record.
on list price.
Yep.
Yeah. They don't necessarily know what you closed for.
Of course.
Well, if all they see is a deed transfer and the property was once worth 2.3 and you bought it for 5.6, and they just see a deed transfer, but it was never listed, the county doesn't know that now that area is calling for houses that are $5 million.
Correct.
Now, will it catch up at some point, the system? Of course, because there's probably other houses surrounding it there in that price point. But it does save you some time,
For sure.
which helps with property taxes.
And I think that's one thing about an agent you got to think about too. Like, hey, the seasoned person, I want to buy a $3 million house. One, you want access to the best properties, and if obviously they're off market, you've got to get somebody that knows what they're doing and has access to that. But two, if that's a $3 million house and the tax value is 1.8 for the time being, using the right person, that probably will save you 10 to 15 grand a year for 4 or 5 years. And people don't look at that in totality of like, hey, the experienced person is going to navigate the market, knows the strategies, knows the angles, knows the leverage, knows the comps, knows the market, protecting public record and saying like, hey, you could buy this house for $3 million online, or you can buy it for $3 million private. Tax collector says it's 1.8. If we show it to the public, they're going to know you bought it for 3. Taxes go up. And I think from a leverage and money and wealth standpoints, this is a big thing too that seasoned agents do, is they create wealth based on state law to protect. And I think it's really, really important for people to understand that. And the more money that people make, the more they buy bigger houses. They're trying to keep these things protected because they're trying to protect their money. And so outside of the individual that is just navigating the home search or home buyer or home sell, they all understand that like, look, we don't necessarily have to put this thing online if we don't have to, and there's a ton of reasons why maybe we wouldn't. So I think that's important, a really good important thing to point out to people, that like, look, nothing wrong in a non-disclosure state with doing behind the scenes deals.
Right.
It's a big protected point. Nobody wants to pay any more money than they have to. People are concerned about rates. People are concerned about homeowners insurance. All relevant, but sometimes people forget like the property taxes could go up $1,000 a month if it was a public sale, and that's more than 2, 3, 4% in the rate. But if you don't choose the right person, the right seasoned agent, they're not thinking about all these levers that have to be pulled to make a transaction complete. And I think that's where starting pre-COVID and seeing a regular market, and then watching the COVID clunkiness happen, and then watching the market change, and then going from traditional up luxury and everything in between. You've got these skill sets, you've got these connections, you've got the brain, you've got the relationships. And I think all this matters so much more now than ever, because I think, your everyday client is trying to find that person. I think there's less of those people, which is why obviously I think you've done a great job for yourself as an agent, but also like transitioning into brand. I recognize every year that your brand's getting stronger, your brand's getting better, your brand's getting cleaner, and it's starting to point to something. So talk to me a little bit about like, the journey of you starting social, doing digital, creating a brand, what it started as, what it is now, and how important do you think that is to the marketplace today, but also moving forward?
Of course. I do want to make one last point about the off-market stuff,
Please.
because I think this is super important to know.
Mm-hmm.
If you want a lot of eyes on your property and the most exposure and likely the highest price, you will likely go on MLS.
Okay.
So as a seller, and you're listening to this, if you're like, well, why isn't my agent selling my house only on off-market? Our network only goes so far.
Right.
Is it so helpful for buyers? Yes. Is it so beneficial for sellers? Yes. The most exposure is always going to come from MLS.
Sure.
So I just want to make that clear, but also kind of asterisk.
Yeah.
I'll put an asterisk on that and say 40% of our luxury deals are selling off market, and there's a reason for it, and a lot of it is privacy.
Yeah.
So just know that. But
Good.
Back to your question about building the brand and everything. I think along with the natural progression of the business, the brand has taken off on its own.
Okay.
Where we really focus on just being authentic and showing up for our clients and putting them first. I think a lot of it, initially was we're going to sponsor events and we're going to be a part of events. And then it kind of turned into like, let's do our own events. So that's been really helpful. I would say the Gigi Dallas gives back, doing that every year. This will be the 8th year we do it.
Wow.
That's just grown, and it's been so exciting to see how many people have been exposed to these different organizations through Gigi Dallas Gives Back. And it's something that we are really looking to grow as we grow as a business as well. Because at the end of the day, as agents, as brokers, we are here to serve others.
Right.
And it's not just serving those who can sell homes or buy homes with. It's also those who are underprivileged. And so I think that having that, like the heart of the business, be so important and upfront with everyone about it has been, I think, a piece that has differentiated us from a lot of different groups, because there's so many agents in Dallas.
Sure.
But I think also focusing on like what we're doing, how we can improve, where we need to shift, what we can do better, and not like comparing ourselves to what this person's doing, what that team is doing.
Right.
In this business especially, it's so hard not to, because you're constantly being, the agents are constantly throwing it in your face. Like, oh, I sold this much. I did this much. I got this award. I'm in this magazine. It's kind of the way of our business. But coming from a place where you can look at them and congratulate them and feel happy for them versus being like, well, I want that to be me, because you don't know what that agent had to do to get there. You don't know what that agent had to endure to sell that house. So just being grateful and your feet on the ground. What do I need to do to get to where I need to get? What are my goals, not what can I do to be this person? Yeah.
And I think what you know and I know now, obviously being in the business for a long time, is your brand is a marathon. And people need to think about it like that. Like, it is okay to post some stuff and you got a closing here and there, but like you shouldn't play catch up. You shouldn't compare. You don't know, right? But I think for you, the marathon of the brand is like over a long period of time. You'll win because it becomes authentic about who you are. And it's okay saying like, I've helped 100 families. It's not a showcase, show off. Evidence that you help people is good, but with the nucleus and the heart of like, we care. And what I've noticed about your brand is why it's done so well. It's continued to build and trend. It's for the right reasons, but it's a marathon. And I don't want people out there, whether they're lenders or whether they're agents or whatever, like, you don't think that you need to post something just for a year and all of a sudden you've got to compare to the next person. You're going to be good. Be you, run the long race, play the long game. Your brand will develop itself organically. The market and the people will speak back to you. The digital space is louder than ever, but I think the authentic brands that are here for the marathon, not the sprint, are the ones that are doing well, including yours. And so obviously kudos to you for that. Let's switch it up for folks out there that are thinking, okay, we've been in this business 10 years, 15 years, whatever we are. Let's talk about work-life balance.
Yes.
It's always something I like to discuss. It's something that I think like it's a work-life, like a merge. Life looks different for you now than it did 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yes.
Married, have a family.
Yes.
Talk to me about how, as a as a wife, as a mom, as an agent, as a go-getter, how do you adjust with what you're living in now versus the single you and everything in between, like the adjustments you have to make, the challenges you face, but also the rewards? How does somebody that's watching this that may be either in the exact same space or maybe they're single, but in 5 years they're going to have a spouse and a kid here and there and things to expect? Because I think you're an excellent example of how you've done all of it. So challenges, adjustments, rewards, how does that look?
Okay, so I would say the biggest adjustment for me was making sure that the time that was spent not at home was worthwhile.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Uh-huh.
so gone are the days of where someone's like, I just kind of want to see just to see what the market's doing. Like, let's just go take a peek and, let's just drive around.
Yeah.
I think in the past, especially if they were a friend, I'm like, yes, like, let's do it. It'll be great. We'll go to dinner afterwards. Like now it's like, I have to be home at a certain time.
Right.
Because I want to have dinner with my family. Like dinner time for us is super important. Breakfast is super important for us. Just all sitting at the table together. So it's like we have our own kind of systems at home, and I have to respect that and I have to honor that. And so I've just been more selective with my time as to who I'm going to take on as a client. But the biggest adjustment outside of just like, really refining my client base, it's also been setting up systems. And it's something that while I was single, and like you really helped me with this, like creating those systems, the SOPs for everything. Okay, you've got a listing. What does that look like? Who's going to help you do this, this, and that? I recognize I can't do everything on my own. So having a list of SOPs for everything, open houses, buyers, sellers, referrals, gifts, events, everything has an SOP. I want the business to run whether I'm at home with the babies or I'm in Italy with my husband.
Right.
I need the business to run smoothly. The only way that's going to happen is if we have systems in place. Right. So I would say if that's you, like if you're thinking like I want my business to grow, but I'm also about to get married or I'm about to have children, or I am married and have children and I want to get into the business, but I don't know if I can handle the pickup and the drop off and the this and all the things that come along with being a mom and a wife.
Totally.
Having those systems it's life-saving. My current coach now, he holds me accountable on tracking, which I am not great at, but I'm working on.
We're all working
on something.
Right.
But it's like tracking, who you're chatting with, what you guys are talking about, tracking your progress in certain areas, delegating, which, I'm not great at, hiring the right people. At the end of the day, it's a business, And so, yes, there's been a lot of adjustments, but in the best ways. I also truly recognize that when I was single and I was working 60, 70-hour weeks, that was just a season.
Sure.
So it's like, of course, like right after I had my first baby, I was like, oh my gosh, like no one's going to hire me because I'm a mom. There's that fear of like, are they going to see me as like this business person, or are they just going to see me as a mom?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it was something that I had to learn to like work through. But I learned that a lot of clients actually really respected my time even more.
And those are the clients that you want, which
yes,
I'm talking about here, man. That's
of course. So it's like, hey, I know you probably have to get home to your babies, but can we see this, or can we schedule a meeting? Like everything's become more regimented.
Right.
And I'm not saying that if you're not a mom, you can't have that respect. You can. It was just a fear of mine. I was a first-time mom. I didn't know what to expect. And so I've changed my business model in the best ways. I'm so grateful for where I am. Really focused a shift on working with developers and just being more mindful with like my own personal clients. So it's been a great change, and I'm so grateful, truly. And I think faith, obviously, in the middle of it all has been what's grounded me the most through my marriage, through becoming a mom, through becoming a business or being a business owner,
Right.
staying present for my friends,
Right.
for my family,
Right.
still giving back.
Right.
It's a lot.
Right. It is. And I want people who are listening to this to pay attention of like, as you grow in this business, as you grow older, we all go through these phases. And so, I mean, what I hear you saying too is like healthy boundaries will help you be successful.
Yes.
But also growing in a business and having a great network of people and a lot of great past clients and current clients and all that, those are the people that you want to work with that will respect the fact that, hey, you have to go take care of X with spouse. You have to take care of this with kids. Those are the people that you want. You don't want the people that like would just disrespect you and be like, oh, okay, I got to take my daughter to cheerleading, got to take my son to baseball, whatever, and just snub you off. People feel that way sometimes because they're operating from a place of chaos and they don't really actually know. But the older you get, the more business you get, the right clients, right, will respect that piece. And everybody has to pick and choose their bad boundaries. We all know this industry steals a little bit of hours from our life. We have to pick and choose where the steal is, and it doesn't need to be away from the kiddos. It doesn't need to be away from the spouse. And I think the right clients and the right business partners respect that. And I think it's nice to have those. And if the people don't want to wait on you or they don't want to respect that, it's okay to say no.
Right.
And I think the good clients that have families are the good clients that have good morals and bad boundaries. They understand like they get you, and what comes with you when you're available is worth the wait. It's worth the time.
Yeah.
So people have to like work on systems, work on healthy boundaries, working on saying no, finding the right clients. The right clients will allow you to have and probably want you to have time off to spend with family stuff here and there. I've always said like I want to be an early riser so I don't have to be a late worker.
Yeah.
My whole thing is like, I have to steal hours from this business, and so I'd rather be the 5:30 in the morning guy, but I am home every single night by 5:30 or 6, so I can be present for the things that I want, which is dinner with my wife, time with the family, hanging out. And so just like you evolving, you're picking and choosing, but I also think like those things matter a ton in life over a long period of time, but also like having clients that get that, having clients that want that for you and are able to let you draw boundaries in areas that you're supposed to are the ones that you want to continue to work with and find in the future. And I think sometimes having to say no is healthy. And we all go through those thoughts of like, well, what if I don't take that call at 7? It's okay.
Right.
Right.
I think you learn that. And I think it's also wise to recognize that are there going to be days where you're negotiating a contract until 10 p.m.?
Yeah.
That was me last night.
Of course.
Of
course.
But guess what? Like my baby's in bed.
Mm-hmm.
We've cleaned up after dinner. We're like winding down.
Yep.
I felt it was okay for me to respond to this client's email. There are times where it's like, if I'm asleep, I'm not going to wake up in the middle of the night. And you know what I mean? So it's like, it's not this like list of like black and white rules.
It's the
like
exception, not the rule, but the exception's
right.
okay as long as, and you get that discernment and you talk to your partner and you make sure everything is good and it's okay. And there still are times where like, yes, it will eat into and just bounce out in the off time, and that's the industry, but like it can't be all the time. It has to be for the specific scenario here and there under the agreement. And so not that it cuts off immediately, but it's less and less.
I'll never forget, like I was, maybe year 8 into my business. Maybe year 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look back and look at the archives. And it was the first time I was traveling abroad, and I was freaking out. I'm like, how am I going to leave my business? I had an assistant, so like that was helpful. But it was at the time where like I was still trying to really prove myself to my clients.
Yeah,
I think we've all been there. And I'll never forget, I like put in my the auto response on the email, what is it called? The out of office response. Out of office.
Like, thanks so much for emailing. I'm gone for a week.
That's right. My out of office was like, I am not as available, because I used to be available 24/7.
Sure.
24/7.
Right.
It's like, I won't be as available, but I'll be available from this time to this time. And where we were was 7 hours ahead. And so I would like prop up my laptop for an hour and a half waiting for emails or text messages or whatever, because I was like, I have to respond to these people. And if I don't, I'm going to lose these deals.
Right.
And it really came from a scarcity mindset.
For sure.
Of like, if I'm not there right away, I'm going to lose this deal.
Yes.
And the truth is like my best friend, Cassie, hello, who I was traveling with, she was like, Grecia, you do know that we're not like creating oxygen. Mm-hmm. You're not a heart surgeon. Like no one's going to die unless there's a deadline. Of course, be super respectful and responsible for with your deadlines. She's like, if someone's asking you to pull comps on this house that you're not even going to show them in 2 weeks, like What is the urgency of it, of you doing it now? Or can your assistant do it? You know, there's things that just in your mind, you have to reframe it to be like, okay, I'm not creating oxygen. It doesn't mean that I'm irresponsible if it takes me a day to respond or whatever, especially if you have an out of office.
Yes.
And so I've taken that example and I've applied it to be me being a mom, me being a wife, of like, if me and my husband are on a trip, obviously now that we have kids, like it's hard for us to travel as much as we used to. But if me and him are on a trip and we're having a nice dinner, just him and I with no kids, I'm not going to sit on my phone and send emails the whole time or text or, you know, look at my ads or whatever. It's like there's a time and a place for everything. But also understanding that, like, if I do need to respond to someone, it's fine if I do that too. That can't be my only focus. And so I think finding clients that are, you know, okay with the systems you've created, never leaving a client hanging, because that's also not great, but just having a system to where like, hey, I'm gone, but when I'm gone, this and this and this person will get back to you. And if you don't get your answers there, they'll reach out to me and we'll figure something out together.
And that's where the relationship component for you comes in. People like you and they trust you and they know when they've got you, you're giving them your all. I think you're proactive in a sense of like, hey, I'm going to go on a trip in 7 days. Here's everything that you need leading all the way up. The protectors. I mean, even, you know, for us, when we go on vacation, like my thing is, I will do an hour Zoom meeting with the team, take emails and calls and everything in the morning while I'm having coffee, hanging out, getting stuff done here and there.
Heather's getting ready.
Right. There are boundaries and respectful spots here and there. But the truth is, as you get older, you want this for yourself. You want to say like, hey, I deserve this. I've earned this. Right. And 95% of the clients and the business partners that you work with understand that. They will give you the room. You'll get some assistance, whether from a teammate, assistance things here and there. And, you know, every now and then you're going to miss one. It's okay.
Yeah.
Right. It's okay when you get to a level to miss one. The truth of the matter is you have to think about it in your mind. Like, if you miss one, it's okay. But the truth is, like, you know, if you're going to tick somebody off, it's either your spouse or your person or your client. Pick and choose. And if you're doing well and you got the right clients here and there, it's okay to let that one slide through the crack, but it's a healthy thing to do.
Yeah, like it's like, for example, I took my baby to the doctor the other day and her doctor couldn't see her. I wasn't like, oh, how dare she not see us? Right. I'm like, I understand she has different patients. Like, not that I compare myself to a doctor, but it's like for most of things in life, we're okay with like the fact that someone is not always available. Correct. So I think getting rid of some of the clients that felt like if I didn't respond within seconds, like my business was going to collapse, has also helped a lot, just like for my mindset. I think always keeping things like super respectful, as of course, but there are people who just waste your time, unfortunately.
Yeah, and we all learn that. I think having those systems and those boundaries and like, you know, letting everybody know up front is good. And I've never had any issue once I've started to be proactive in the boundaries and the communication with the outside world, that if I'm not available or if I'm going on a trip or something's here and there, like they know that we are, you know, available majority of the time. If we can't get back to them, there's a reason. We're not being lazy. We're not ignoring. It's something with family, something with trip here and there.
You're not just like sitting on your couch.
Right. And you've earned that respect, and that's really, really good. And so for folks out there that maybe, you know, in that spot, try to work that into your system proactively early on, so you don't have to do it all at once. So when you get your person, when you get your kids, when you have other things in life that are calling you to, you know, be away from work, or just, you know, just for healthy boundaries in the sand, build these things ahead of time and put them in place so that when you need them, they're there and you're not working from behind. Something you mentioned earlier before we wrap up, I want to talk about your faith. Yes. It is important to you. It means a ton to you. It means a ton to me. I know it helps guide you personally and professionally. Talk about that all out, personally, professionally, your journey, your walk, how it helps you in life, how it helps you in this business and brought you to be the woman that you are today.
Yes. So my faith has like really shaped everything for me. I mean, I think I mentioned in the beginning when I was at university, my whole life I thought I was going to be a doctor, you know? So it's like never in my life did I think I was going to get into real estate. And when that shifted, a lot of it was like I was being called to do something different. And like it was like I was young, you know, I was like 18 probably. When did we graduate college? 20, probably 20.
Yeah, 20.
Yeah.
For tech people, 5 years, like 23, but that's okay. No one judges.
Yeah, it was like 2021. Yeah. You graduate when you're 21, right?
22.
Okay. So I was like in my early 20s, and I remember just being like, I don't think that I should go to medical school right now. And I was like just seeking the Lord and like, God, like give me some sort of, sign, give me guidance. Like I was so scared and lost, mainly scared of disappointing my parents, the main thing. And also thinking like, gosh, I've wasted 4 years studying pre-med, like for what? Like there's all these things that go on. So like learning really early on that like God had my back, like I decided, okay, real estate is it for me.
Right.
God has me. And he did, you know. Was it easy to start the business? No, but like he is who I always fell back on. He never ever let me drown, ever. And that then carried on to like as the business was building, then building my relationships, my friendships, my personal growth. So like God has been the constant in my life, and a prayer that I always prayed was that God would shape me and mold me into the woman that he had created me to be. And, I would ask him to show me that in others. So it's like, let me meet someone who I don't necessarily want to emulate, but like, let me meet someone that you kind of show me like, look, you follow my path. Like, this is what your life could be like. This is the type of woman that you can be like. So God really started shaping the desires of my heart so differently. And it's shaped, from preparing my heart to meet my husband, preparing my heart to become a mom, preparing my heart to deal with the clients that I'm dealing with. Like God really has been at the forefront of everything. I get a lot that I'm so patient. Like everyone's like, oh my God, like you dealt with this, you dealt with that. Like you're so patient. And I'm like, I don't see it that way. I truly see that God just has placed me in these really amazing positions to serve other people, and he's rewarded me for that. So it's been a journey, but it's been a really beautiful one. And I think this business is highly emotional. It fluctuates so much. So having such a strong base in my relationship with Christ, and like him placing like such amazing people in my life, has been such a testament of like who he is and what he does. And I always think I think about Ephesians 3:20 all the time, where God will give us more than we can ask, think, or imagine. And I apply that to everything in life. Even when I'm looking for a parking spot, I'm like, God's going to provide with a better parking spot than I can even think of. And it's just like, God's not a genie, but he works so well with us. And he's been so intentional with me. So I'm really grateful about that.
Good. Well, obviously, I've witnessed your testimony. I'm super proud of you. Keep doing all that. And I just want to thank you for being a great friend and a great business partner, and coming on and sharing your story with everybody. Before we get out of here, if people want to find you, social media, website, what's all the fun stuff where they can go locate you and reach out?
I would say if you want to contact me, the easiest way is via Instagram. I'm at Gigi Dallas. I also have my team page at gigidallas.team. You can also email me, gigi@greciagarza.com. But I'm happy to be here. I'm grateful for you. You've been such a, key person in my business. And I love the way that you guide, others into a mortgage. No, I'm just kidding. I love how you guide your team, how you lead. I love how you lead your own personal life. I've seen your business just like explode and really take off. And so I've always been grateful for your support and your friendship.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Having me.
Yes. One of the best in the gig game, folks. Gigi, go find her online, look her up, follow her. We appreciate you tuning in to the platform. We appreciate all the support. You know where to find us. Until next time, stay tuned.